What is up, guys? This is Shannon with Bare Metal Tech, and today we're taking a look at a special treat from our friends at GALAX. This is actually a card I was able to pick up luckily and get hands on because from what I understand, it's a limited edition. It's about 100 pieces total, I think they made. This is a very, very exclusive OC Lab Edition 2080 Ti. Now, the thing that makes it so special is it's designed from the ground up for XOC, extreme overclocking, guys that do liquid nitrogen, all that good stuff. And it cannot be more evidenced than just by the fact of when you open the front, you have just a bare PCB staring at you. Yeah, okay, you can kind of see it. You have a bare PCB staring at you through the box. Even if you're expecting that sort of thing, it's a little unnerving because you open it up, normally if you have a window on your card box, normally you just have a picture of the card or what have you. Otherwise, you have a card box that you open up, let's say there's a front window, you can see the cooler, you can see the card, you can kind of see like the fin array. If it has like RGB lighting areas, you can kind of see them or get some sort of preview, things like that. When you open this one, you get a bare card. And that's just a little odd to me, even though I know it's an XOC product. It's actually really cool. I love the fact it doesn't come with a cooler, because that means you don't have to pull off, you don't have to like clean off old thermal paste or any of that stuff like you normally do. But this card is something a bit different. It comes to you this way. It does come with a cooling solution, a water block by Bits Power, but needless to say, it's still a little unnerving. It's still a little bit one of those things where you look at it and you just go, wow, like this legit is just a PCB. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and we're going to take it out. Okay, now this is the OC Lab Edition card, which means it is designed for like the GALAX OC competition, like the one that just happened just recently. You had to have one of these cards to actually compete for the qualifiers and all that stuff. So first of all, you'll see it's a massive PCB. It's a 16+3 phase VRM, technically 16+3. We'll get into that shortly. But overall component quality, super solid. 3 8-pins, of course, because you want to have more than enough power for that power plane to be able to feed the GPU and whatnot. And once again, we'll get into some of the power stuff here shortly. But overall, when you get a card, normally you're taking it apart to do silly stuff or to water cool it. This card comes out of the box, as you see here. I didn't take it apart, none of that. It comes this way. Like, this trips me out more than anything because normally when you're testing a card, when you go to, let's go ahead and just place it here. I know you people are going to be like, oh my God, SMDs. Don't worry, I see where it's touching. But when you look at this card, normally you take cards, you plug them into a slot, you test them on their air cooler, whatnot, stress test them, make sure everything's good and not faulty, and before you ever water block them, water cool them, or even LN2 them. This card, you don't really have that opportunity. It comes as a bare PCB. You're strapping an LN2 pot onto this thing and cooling it, or you're water blocking it. Now, another thing that comes in the package I find quite comedic is it has 3, which I do like, white sleeved 8-pin cables with dual 3-pin PATA, or what some people call Molex, but basically Molex parallel ATA connectors or 4-pin connectors to an 8-pin. And that I just find funny because if you're running 3 adapters like this on like an $1,800 card, please save up a little longer, buy a better power supply before installing this card or trying to use it. And if you're trying to benchmark with this card and you're using these adapters, I am guessing it's your first time overclocking, because that would just be a hell of a surprise for me. Let's toss this aside here so you can see the other goodies that come with it. Another thing, I actually have already unboxed this just to check everything and check everything out and to photograph it for the actual written article I'm going to do on this. Comes with gloves. Better question, let's see if they fit me gloves. Oh, they're kind of actually like kind of stretchy. Wow, I have Hall of Fame gloves. So now I can hold it and I guess not get fingerprints on it because I'm pretty sure these aren't ESD safe gloves, but that's okay. So this is the first GPU I've ever had. And I actually made an Instagram post about this a little while back. This is the first GPU I've ever had that's come with gloves. That's pretty neat. The back plate for this card, because obviously if you're going to water cool it or whatnot, put a back plate. Actually has a caution. I kind of wish that that was like a sticker, but it's actually social now. It says caution, hot surface. Understandable. I'm guessing being the fact that, you know, you can, if you're going to be pushing this card as hard as I expect, especially if you have it like on water, it's going to get interesting really quick. This is something I do like a lot. This is a large panel, which already this card is quite sizable. Now, I'm guessing it would be kind of like this. Either way. You're basically going to hook this onto the PCB. There's screw holes for it where the screws go through. Let's go ahead and take a look real quick. Yep, okay, everything lines up. Now, obviously, normally you'd probably attach this post water block install and whatnot. But I just kind of want to give you an idea of how long this card is. So this thing legit is really, really long. Matter of fact, we'll be right back. We're going to grab a Founders Edition card just so you can see the relative difference. Okay, so now we have our FE card. As you can see, if you look, we have the bracket right about there. PCB is obviously taller. And our FE card, let's go ahead and do inches. From the bracket is about 10.5 inches, almost exactly, for the FE. For this guy, that's about 15 inches. Or, geez, this is insane. Or about 380 millimeters, approximately. I'm not exact on this, but figure this card, I mean, this card is really going to put a big test on how far you could go if you decide to put this in a case with this end. Now, if you decided to take, let's say, just the card without attaching it, it's almost exactly 12 inches. So it's not that big of a deal if you don't have this control panel attached. But imagine even with a test bench setup with LN2, you're still going to have, let's go and get this off here real quick. You're still going to have this hanging over the edge of your test bench setup. I mean, this thing is just massive. I really like it because this actually allows you in real time to control both your memory and GPU voltage, or basically NVDD or FBVDD. So basically, these will allow you to adjust your 2 key voltages that will allow you to overclock this card a little better and a little easier having that control device versus, you know, maybe having a hard mod or trim pot that would allow you to adjust the voltage directly. This allows you to do it directly through. Now, being if you were a contestant in the GOC event, you would actually have what's called an XOC BIOS, which gets rid of your voltage limits for your previously mentioned NVDD or your FB. I got notes here so I can keep track of everything because otherwise my brain just goes, bleh. The FBVDD, that basically will allow you to adjust your CPU voltage or your GPU voltage and your memory voltage. We're going to put Mr. Founders Edition out of the way here. Will allow it to adjust, the XOC BIOS will allow it to adjust without limits, where you normally have a power limit in place. This card, if you have it and you're not in the XOC, like for instance, I got this direct without competing, so I did not get an XOC BIOS. Technically, you can still have multiple jumpers across the board that will allow you to manually override or disable the voltage limits that you have on your core voltage and on your memory voltage. Is that the best idea if you're liquid cooling? Absolutely not. Don't do it because you're chance of hurting something is going to be much higher because there's none of the protections in place. Honestly, even with talking to GALAX, talking to some of the engineer guys over there, you don't want to, you don't even need like the XOC BIOS to necessarily reach like the limits of standard ambient cooling, whether ambient cooling be, liquid cooling or whatnot. Now, if you are going sub-zero, those voltage limits being adjustable would definitely be a plus, because that's going to allow you a much higher power limit, allow you to push a lot more power through it without having to do some of the hard modding you might normally have to do. Having the BIOS would definitely be even easier, but otherwise swapping those jumpers, no big deal. You can pretty much take care of it. Now, this card's very interesting, and you know what? Let's quick take out the block so you guys can see that, because this thing's beastly. I mean, geez, some of the package weight alone is like just this massive block. So the block comes to them care of bits power, which, holy crap thickness. I mean, this thing is almost like thick. This thing is almost as thick as like the FE cooler. So let's take the FE, we're going to stand it on end. Don't fall, because that would probably make a lot of people cringe. So yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, this thing's basically, this is one card where when you water cool it, it is still a 2-slot card. Because, holy crap. So, it has addressable LEDs. It has an addressable LED strip actually embedded into the block. Going around there. I'll get you guys some close-up shots of some of this stuff, like for instance, the jumpers I mentioned previously. So this is a massive, just a beefy bits power block. This thing is going to be able to cool the VRM. It's got both sides VRM. By the way, that's something we need to take a look at as well. Is when you have an inrush of current, and it also, oh yeah, it also comes with all necessary goodies to attach it. Take some, we'll do some B-roll stuff of that to show it off. So when you have an inrush of current, if you have it only coming from the power stages and directly into here, what happens is you have more resistance the longer you run. So you might not get the optimal voltage here on this side of the GPU versus where you got it here if it's all coming from the pipeline from this side over. So having part of the power stages here means we can actually funnel it in from both sides and allow the GPU to be better fed and more equally fed overall. And speaking of GPU being adequately fed, this is technically a 16 plus 3 phase. Now, there's a couple cards with 16 plus 3, even one with 16 plus 4. But this one has 3 8-pins. It has a, if what I saw is correct, it is a 450 watt power limit, which is the next closest card thus far that I know of. Obviously, I haven't seen the specs on the Kingpin card yet, but the next closest card to this one would be the EVGA FTW3, which is like 373 watts. And just to put this in perspective, the FE card, if I remember correctly, this is going off the top of my head because unfortunately I didn't put it in my notes, I believe the FE is about 330 watts. So this has 450 watt total power limit, which means that's a ton more power you can push through this. So I have a funny feeling that water block's definitely going to be coming into use, because that is something that this card with water cooling could definitely probably really take off. Now, the reason I said it technically has 16 plus 3 is because there is no 16-phase memory controllers. There is no 16-phase PWM controllers or VRM controllers. There is none. There is, the highest I've seen is 10, and that was a monolithic MP2888, which was the one the Asus Strix card uses. And it has a 16 plus 3, if I remember correctly, as well. So, that being said, with a 16-phase power supply on this, obviously it has a power controller. The question is which one, because all the other cards besides this one and the Strix card use the UP9512, which is an 8-phase. And the thing with the 20 Ti's that I've seen thus far, it might have something to do with their power limit or their power control schemes. I have not seen one yet that uses actual phase doublers. So that means basically they're like trading off or splitting out the signal to multiple MOSFETs or multiple power stages, just to control it properly. This one actually has what I'm pretty sure is a new 10-phase by Infineon. It is Infineon. I actually got that information. An Infineon XDPE 10281B, which I'm pretty sure is a new 10-phase unit, similar to our 10-channel ability to push up to 10 phases similar to like the MP2888, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't have a data sheet for it. The power stages are Infineon as well. They're TDA 21470, which are 70 amp power stages. So figure you've got 16 total power stages able to feed this card. It's got a 450 watt power limit. So let's just face it, this thing isn't even gonna, this thing, I don't even want to say break a sweat. This thing won't even reach a run walking pace running maxed out on water cooling. I mean, the VRM on this thing is just going to be way underused. The memory VRM is a 3-stage. It actually has, it is a UP9509P controller, and it uses MagnaChip high and low side FETs. So you're talking, or in-channel trench MOSFET, I should say. Your low side's at MDU 1511, with the high side being MDU 1514. So those, I kind of wish they'd done power stages just to keep it consistent and have a similar similar overall BOM. But at the end of the day, I guess you give and get. I mean, overall, this is a very interesting layout. I mean, I love the fact that they have it so that you can have the current, especially when you go from like transient loading from like a low load to really heavy load really quickly. This thing's going to be able to keep it fed adequately, especially on when you're edge overclocking. I could see this being a major advantage. This is what makes it so interesting to me for like seeing like the Kingpin card and stuff like that. There is so much that you can do with this. Now, there's one thing that I find very interesting that GALAX did here, and this is something that I've seen on previous cards they've done as well, is on the VRM, they don't just do like really, high-end components, they also load everything up. So your bulk capacitance, your film, your multilayer ceramics, you have just ceramics shoved every which area to make sure that you have as much filtering capability on this power circuit as possible. So this means that your power circuits are you're gonna be getting a really good, I don't want to say stable power, I guess you could say stable power. You're just able to feed this thing monstrous amounts of power. I mean, anyone buying this, if you're buying this just to water cool, if you could even get one, because I believe this was only limited, like I said, to about 100 pieces. But this thing has so much power potential. It's just staggering. It's insane. Now, unfortunately, I don't have an LN2 pot on me. I have one for CPU. I don't have one for GPU at this time. This is something we might look at in the future. But instead, I am going to water block this card. I'm going to put the bits power block on it because we're going to test it as it comes if you're a regular consumer and buying this card. Because XOC might come in the future, but for right now, I want to test this card, see how it performs, especially if it has that 450 watt power limit. I think we're going to be able to see some really nice clocks and something that you guys at home could actually repeat. So I think that's about it. The controller we talked about. The jumpers, the fact that you can disable the voltage limits is really cool. I mean, there's capacity. Oh, by the way, capacitance, like I was saying, there is capacitors everywhere. I mean, the amount of filtering caps, the amount of overall power filtering, and the just overall staggering amount of basically, if it fits, we're putting it, is just insane. This is really cool to see. I'll definitely grab some B-roll so you guys can see some of this stuff much closer. I've only taken pictures of this. I haven't actually studied any of the components or anything till right before I shot this video, because I wanted to learn a little bit about the card so I knew exactly what components were on it. Otherwise, I'm going to come on here and talk to you guys and be looking at it and be like, oh, I think this is this. I would rather be able to share with you guys what I do know. And unfortunately, with the controller, I can't really share a lot because there's simply not much information out there. But at the end of the day, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get this thing built. And by the way, I've actually had this card for a little bit of time, but one special thing. Let me grab it real quick. Ta-da! There we go. Okay, so OC Cool or Alpha Cool. I worked with them on this because basically I needed to rebuild my liquid cooling test bench. And so I've talked to these guys, worked with these guys for quite a long time. And basically I was like, hey, I need to test this card. I want to do something cool with it. So basically I talked to Alpha Cool. I worked with them on getting some components over here. We're going to be setting this thing up to see how far we can push it. I will most likely be doing a video. I'll definitely be doing a written part on it at Bjorn 3D, talking about my experience with this card, breaking it down just like I did with you, but with much more close-up, like macro images, things like that, that we can show off some of the detail, some of the components, ICs, and whatnot. But if you're interested, let me know down below in the comments. I would love to maybe do basically just record as we start pushing the limits on this card, see exactly what it can do, see what it looks like with the water block on it, and see what kind of stuff we can do about, you know, pushing the total limits and comparing it to our results with overclocking the FE card, see how much power limit we've got on it. If you guys are interested in seeing that kind of thing, let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested in possibly recording that, maybe even streaming it, just showing kind of how it all goes together, showing some of the AlphaCool parts, the quality of them, what I chose and why, because when I talk to AlphaCool, I'm like, hey, I really want to do this, and they're like, okay, let us know what you need for your bench so we can get this running. And I selected some variations of parts so that we can have a full liquid cooling bench that has quick connects, interchangeable, so we can swap in and out blocks to be able to test different things. This is things I'm doing for Bare Metal Tech to make sure that we're able to test more items in the future. We're able to get more consistent, and I'm always pushing for more consistent testing by having similar components as much as possible, especially across like CPU cooler testing. One problem would be like Threadripper. It's really hard to test Threadripper like AIOs because, for instance, if you test, which I have the Intermax AIO here that I am testing on Threadripper, and I actually just got the board for, as you guys saw in the What's in the Box video, this specific ability by adding these quick disconnects and being able to add different blocks onto an existing cooling loop means I'll be able to more consistently test with as similar components as possible. Whereas like that Threadripper Intermax cooler, I can't mount it to any other CPU to see how well it cools besides what it cools on a Threadripper. So that's where it gets really tough to compare components. And that's why sometimes I'll talk about the specific component in front of me and not compared to 10 others, because sometimes it's really hard to have a metric that is fair. And I know fair is kind of a loose term, but we've got to try to keep it as fair as possible so that it doesn't seem like we have an inherent bias, like, we like one, so we're going to talk better about it. Even though this card's really cool, it's an $1,800 card. Or at least it was an $1,800 card when I got it. Now you can't even get them. But just because it's an $1,800 card and it's a badass LN2 card does not mean I'm necessarily going to love it when it comes to performance. That we're going to be testing coming really soon. Like I said, keep an eye on Bjorn 3D for the written stuff that I'm doing over there. Otherwise, keep an eye here on Bare Metal Tech channel, and I will most likely do a video showing off how this card performs, showing it with its water block on, attached to some of the new AlphaCool parts we have in hand. And I want to say thank you, to AlphaCool. Thank you to you guys for tuning in, checking out what I've got to say, checking out the new toys I'm playing with, some of this new high-end hardware. And if you guys like what you're seeing here, please give me a like, give me a subscribe. If that button down there is red, turn it gray for me. Tick the bell, and then you'll actually get a notification anytime I post new content. Now, also, let me know if you're like, hey, I really like this. I want to see you test it. I want to see a video on testing it. If I can do it, I will. I'll try doing some screen capturing and whatnot so you guys can see exactly how it performs, how I test things and whatnot. I'll do my best to capture some of that for you, and I'm more than happy to do it. I just got to know what you guys want to see. Thanks a lot for joining, and have a great day. If you like what you see here and you want to get the newest content from Bare Metal Tech right away, be sure to subscribe, tick the bell, go to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, give those a like, join the community so that you will see not only the newest content going up, but also some behind the scenes as we release pictures of new stuff, or even some behind the scenes small video clips showing some of the bloopers, fun stuff we do here, along with the newest stuff we are playing with that'll be coming out in videos soon.